This is Coach Jason Ballard, and I'm a business wingman. Over the years, I've learned a lot from working in our family construction business, serving as a senior officer in the United States Air Force, and running 12 different organizations around the world. Many people helped me get to where I am today, and it's my mission in life to serve as a personal wingman to others. That's what this podcast is all about, providing knowledge, tools, resources, and mentorship to help people soar to their highest altitude. Welcome back to the Soar Higher Podcast. This is your host, Coach Jason Ballard, and it's a real privilege to be with you today. We've got a really cool show in store for you. We've got a person that's been on the show before, did a great job, and really got a lot of value out there, a lot of positive feedback from him being on the show. Very dynamic person. He's also a fellow veteran, Air Force veteran. I call him my fellow Air Force brother from another mother. He's coming back on the show to go deeper into some things that he's really helping people solve out there. And so, what are we really talking about today? We're talking about in a time that we live today where things are just really, a lot of people are just challenged with, work, things going on in the workforce, from political correctness to finding talent and retaining talent to solving problems and growing their business and developing their people. Lots of different things going on, very dynamic workforce that we live in today. But when it comes to people make up the culture. And so today we're going to be talking about, whether it's the people you have today or the people you hire tomorrow, how do you take those people and get the best out of them? How do you have a high performing organization consistently improving and growing and thriving, where basically there's a line of people waiting at the door wanting to come to work for you? They've heard about the great things that are going on and they want to be a part of that special thing. And so we're going to be talking about that. We've got an expert on the show, repeat guest, HR Huntsman is his name. Let me remind you of a little bit about HR and his background. For folks that are listening that may not have heard the first episode. HR, an amazing man, Air Force veteran, also a founder and president of a company called The Leader's Edge, right? It provides executive coaching and strategy and broader cultural consulting to businesses all over the world. He's a keynote speaker that speaks around the globe. He's an expert in leadership and is really helping organizations transform and navigate into their next level of success. So, HR, welcome to the show again, my friend.
Thank you, Jason. That was a wonderful introduction. I'm honored to be here for a second time. It's great to be back.
Well, we are certainly glad to have you back. You're just a phenomenal person, doing great things. For folks that may not have had a chance to listen to the first episode, it's episode 95. Episode 95. So you can go back through whatever channel you may be listening to the podcast and go back and listen to that one. It's gonna be we're dovetailing from that one into this episode today. So HR, catch us up to speed. What's new with you? What's new with your company, and how are things going with you?
We are just growing leaps and bounds, adding staff, adding clients since I saw you, I think 3 months ago. We've added lots of high profile clients. I'm starting a book on our methodology and how we build these destination workplaces that you're talking about. I'll be launching my own podcast as well, like you, interviewing high profile leaders. We're always focused on leadership. I believe that leaders change the world. I've seen it all over the world. So I'm a busy boy up to cool new stuff.
That sounds exciting, man. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
And congratulations on the podcast. What do you have a name for the podcast picked out yet?
It'll be The Leader's Edge. We're going to stick with our name.
Leader's Edge. I love it. That's a great brand. And I love the consistency, and when I went through this same process a number of years ago, we, Soar Higher came right out on top, which, everything about me is around soaring
That's
higher
right.
with our aviation background. So congratulations. When do you plan to launch? When's your first episode going to be ready?
It'll probably be at the end of summer. My summer is insanely busy, so it'll probably be September sometime would be my guess.
Okay. Well, man, that sounds great.
Love to have you on.
Yeah, well, I would love to be on the show, man. Anything related to you is going to be great, as it has with other things you've done that we're about to talk about at length here. So, yeah, let me know, and we'll figure it out, and we'll love to be on the show. So, HR. Today we're talking about some deeper level discussions around people and organizations and people working together. And we're talking about becoming high performing teams, a culture of excellence, accountability, working together, achieving bigger, better things together. As a global coach and somebody that's out there working with a lot of different companies, what are some of the big takeaways? What are some of the things you've been seeing and learning that are becoming a trend and some common ground here? Kind of help us understand the landscape a little bit.
For sure. Well, I've said for decades that every business is people business. And it's always interesting to me when a company will invite us to come and work with them. And maybe we've never worked in that industry before. And they'll ask us, have you ever worked with widgets before? I said, no, this will be our first widget company. They're like, oh, we're not like anything else you've worked with. And I just smile and shake my head. And all companies are people companies, all business is people business. And getting the people thing down is of critical primary importance. And what I'm seeing, the trend that I'm seeing is, especially since COVID, with the talent market and the labor market being so highly competitive. I just did a talk recently on winning the war for talent. The people are now realizing more acutely than ever that talent acquisition is as important. I think it's more important than client acquisition. Business owners, CEOs are realizing this. And so we're being asked to come in and talk about how to build a culture that is attractive to high performing talent.
I love that phrase. Finding the right talent is more important than client acquisition.
Talent acquisition is more important than client acquisition.
That is powerful. I think there are a lot of people out there that would disagree with you that run businesses out there. And that's all good and well. But I think you're onto something very important here, because isn't it true, if you have the right people in your organization, that's the right person at the right time, won't the clients just kind of follow thereafter?
That's exactly right. And the leaders that recognize that are the leaders that are winning this war for talent. And then they're also winning the war for clients and customers because they have the right people in the right seat doing the right things the right way with the right motivation. And that's going to line up for success.
Absolutely. So why are people struggling with finding the right people? I hear this all the time. I can't find good, quote unquote, good people. We interview all these people, and I offer them all these perks, and I pay for all their benefits, and I do this and I do that, and I can't find them. It's too hard to get them, and then they get in the interview process, and then they kind of ghost us, and you hear all the gripes and complaints and all the bad, sad stories out there. What's going on with that? Why are people not able to get access to quote unquote good people?
Sure. Yeah, let's look at both sides of that equation because there are issues on both sides. If I'm sitting in the CEO seat, which I do actually sit in, and I do look for talent, sitting in that seat, yes, the talent market has changed. The mindset has changed. It is not like when we were cutting our teeth and growing up and roll up your sleeves and get to work. And The mindset has changed. People are now shopping for jobs like we used to shop for a good restaurant. They're looking around, what's good to eat here, and they will test it, and they will go from place to place to place looking for a place that is a good fit. And because the labor market is in their favor, they have the ability to do that. So that mindset has changed, which presses us as business owners, and all your business owners that are listening. We have to be really mindful. The part that's on us is creating a culture that is attractive to recruit and retain talent. So it is on us, as you said in your intro, to create a place where people are lining out the door because we have such an attractive culture that we're going to keep and attract and keep those high level performers.
So, what are people looking for, right? They're out there shopping, they're, interviewing with different people and bouncing around. What are they looking for? They look is are they chasing money? Are they looking for the highest bidder that'll give them the most stuff? Are they looking for a family culture? Are they looking for free food and booze at the end of the week? I mean, like what do people really want? What are people really needing these days from employers to make them feel like this might be the right fit?
Yeah, and this is where I do get some pushback from employers, and this is where I have to really define or clarify what we talk about culture. When I begin talking about culture, sometimes CEOs just roll their eyes and like, "Oh, what's this beanbag chairs and free food in the break room?" And I say, "Okay, stop. What culture isn't is pampering your staff until they're happy, because that's a dead end street.
Yep.
The way we preach culture is how people feel about your environment that allows them to give their very best to grow your brand.
Yep.
So the way we define culture is creating an environment where people are free to give their very best. And most leaders aren't good at creating that environment. And it's not giving away all kinds of free stuff. It's far deeper than that. That's the criticism. I'm going to be tough here on leaders. That's the criticism from lazy leaders who don't know how to do the deep work. And
Yep.
the deep work is developing trust. The deep work is allowing for creative conflict, not allowing for it, actually developing creative conflict. It's mining for excellence. It's setting high expectations and following up. It's being transparent about, well, everything. So the leaders that don't take the time to do that deep work are the ones that criticize. Oh, they just want everything and there's nobody out there. And that's not true. The highest level organizations are attracting high level talent. It's out there. We just have to develop a culture that brings them in.
So why aren't leaders willing to do it, right? I kind of get the impression that leaders are not necessarily lazy, but like the world moves fast and they feel like they need like instant solutions or something. Like yeah, they just want to throw money at it. They just want to throw perks and kind of putting lipstick on the pig, so to speak. Man, like make everything look good and sound good and all of that kind of stuff. Because are they looking for instant, fast solutions? It's kind of like the mindset of playing checkers versus chess. What you're talking about, I think, if I got this right, is leaders aren't investing enough of their time and energy into the long game, into who we're going to be and what we're going to allow or not allow in our culture. Am I right or wrong here?
No, you're right on. And I like you using the long game phrase. Most leaders are task oriented and they're not purpose oriented. They're not proactively driven to create a long-term culture. They're so busy on putting out fires and getting the widgets made and getting the checklist done. They haven't developed an infrastructure of either systems or leadership that allows them to focus on that long game. They're so busy just trying to keep the checklist down today and to keep the complaints down today of putting out the fires.
Yeah.
And what we ask them to do is, and we help them do, is develop that infrastructure so they can step back a little bit and get some oversight and get a 30,000-foot view and develop that infrastructure and that culture that creates the kind of environment we're talking about.
I love it. When I'm working with folks, I often will say these words. There are times in your business journey where you need to slow down in order to speed up. And people are like, well, I don't have to. What do you mean by slow down to speed up? And what does all that even mean? And I was like, no, you need to slow the car down in order to speed the car up. Or you will, do you drive your car everywhere you go at 8,000 RPMs wide open, or driving around town, driving? No, you blow the car up. You've got to slow your business, not necessarily slow the business down, but slow your thought process down, slow your problem solving down, and think through things deeper, think through more options. Because what I have found, I want you to, argue with me on this, or maybe even agree. The process of you slowing down, asking questions, involving, the right people at the right time in the process is more important than the outcome. Do you agree, disagree?
I agree, and I'll share the way we say it. Jocko Willink, another brother
Yeah.
veteran of ours, he does a great job. He talks about the direct and the indirect approach here. It's the same idea. I talk about addition versus multiplication. The direct approach is just to answer the question, put out the fire, make the widget. Multiplication is develop the leader, work on good creative conflict, work on critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, develop conversations that multiply and empower leadership. That takes longer in the short term. It takes longer to develop those kind of people, but it's exponentially more powerful in the long run because now you have your direct reports, 6, 8, 10 good critical thinkers around you, good problem solvers around you that are unloading responsibility and they're teaching critical thinking and problem solving down the line. And now what you've done in the long game or the indirect approach has multiplied yourself and exponentially helps your organization grow. But that takes a proactive, future thinking leader that can pull themselves out of the weeds today to focus on the forest for tomorrow.
I absolutely agree. Often I find that in this process, why aren't more people doing it this way, the right way? I often find they lack either knowledge or trust in the process. They may not have gone through this before. They may not be comfortable with it. It may not be their strong suit. And when you start talking and challenging people in some different ways around these concepts that we're talking about today, they either just don't understand it or they don't trust it.
Yes.
And trust is huge. You've got to trust your people around you. You've got to trust the feedback your clients are giving you is important, right? You've got to trust yourself. You've got to trust the process, even if you're not an expert on it, because the process is where the magic happens.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think there's 2 things. Most of the leaders that come to us and they're frantic and frenetic, and they would say to me, H, I don't have the time to do what you're asking me to do, to sit and ask a bunch of developmental questions. When I know the answer, I'm just going to give them the answer. And I say, okay, then you're creating this feedback loop of you're always the answer man. So they think they don't have the time for this and they don't have the skill set for it. No one has taught them uh, leadership through inquiry or curiosity. They've never taught them that, like you say, to slow down, take the indirect route to really build this human in front of me rather than just to feed him the fish he's asking for today.
Well, I would challenge people that say, "Oh, I don't have time to do this deep stuff. I don't have time to, map things out. I don't have time. I don't have time." Then my question to you is, are you a leader?
Yeah, right.
Just because you have a title or a position or a business card that says you're the boss and you write people's checks, that doesn't mean you're a leader. That means you're a manager. So are you leading the company? If you're going to say, I don't have time, then I would go back and say, well, then you're not a leader because leaders own their time and figure out where to make time for the things that are most important for the long term best interest. So if you don't have time, I call BS. I call BS on that.
I agree. We talk about the 3 Ds. We teach the 3 Ds everywhere we go about leadership. Leaders that diminish, just terrible leaders. They like to power up, they like to undercut, they like to torpedo, they like to shame or prove that they're so much smarter. Those are diminishing leaders. Then there's the director leaders. They just direct, they give orders, they give answers, good people, good women, good men. They think their job is to just direct the people around them. And then there's the developmental people who really want to take people to their next level and bring greatness out of them. In my mind, I'm agreeing with you. Those are the true leaders.
Yep. Leaders have influence. People follow them. I when I was around Colin Powell back when I was in the military, somebody had asked him about leadership, and he gave this quick little story about the first time when he was a second lieutenant, he took over this, army organization. He had this first sergeant that came up to him and introduced himself, and he's like, Lieutenant, leader, you're a leader, when you are a leader, when people will follow you just out of curiosity
Mm,
because you have influence.
right.
Leaders have influence. And I've seen leaders in positions. I've seen pastors of churches. I've seen people in different places that have the position. They have some authority, but they don't have the influence. They sit around a table and there's other people in the room that have the influence. And so to me, that's the trick is,
Yeah.
have you built the influence to be a developmental leader as you're describing? And that's powerful. So if you're out there listening, take that in. Look in the mirror and ask those questions to yourself of how influential are you? Are people willing to follow you to hell, to the gates of hell, if need be, just out of curiosity, because they trust you and you're an influential leader that they want to follow? Question for you. So HR, I want to peel back this onion even deeper, man. This is, I love this topic. I love this stuff. When you're working with teams and building high performing teams and thriving cultures, you've developed, a five step process, if you will. You've got five elements that build this framework for how this works, right? We talked about sometimes leaders struggle to do things because either don't understand it, or they don't trust it, right? So your framework is really, really clean and clear, and it's a really good roadmap for people to follow to help them understand it and trust it and use it to be successful. Talk to us about this framework. Where did you get it from, and what does it consist of, and walk us through it a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, what you're referring to is the teaching I developed just around the culture piece, and that piece is a part of a much larger strategic plan. But culture is just absolutely important, thing not only to talk about but to build. And so, as we've been working with these companies, we see that there are five really important key elements to a high performing culture that does attract top talent. The first one that we preach everywhere we go is they practice radical clarity. The first thing that has to happen for any culture, for any company to be high performing is everything that can be clear needs to be clear, from roles and responsibilities, reporting structures, expectations, pay structure. I know a company that we worked with in the past, they completely blew up because there was lack of clarity around pay structure, and they had 100% turnover within an 18-month period because there was
Oh,
such, right, they're all gone. Every single person left the organization because there was such, and what lack of clarity does, it eventually leads to mistrust, and that's what happened here.
so what, were they just all, being paid, whatever somebody wanted to pay them, and it wasn't fair and equitable, and people found out, or like what happened?
It was all around the billing and bonus structure was unclear, and how billable hours were being billed out to clients they felt was unethical, and then the way their bonus structure was created. And they kept asking for clarity, asking for clarity. It never came, and they all walked out.
Wow.
Now, that's an extreme story, but lack of transparency breeds confusion and low productivity. And then finally, in this case, mistrust. So
Right.
that's where it begins. Great leaders, they practice radical clarity. Everything that can be clear is clear. And that goes to, how do we communicate? Is it Slack? Is it email? When do we not use email? When do we go face to face? When do we have one-to-ones? When do we get on a Zoom call? They have protocols around everything because they want all their communication with clients, customers, and the internal clients to be crystal clear. Nothing's in a fog. We know exactly when we show up to work, there's no fogginess, there's no muddiness. Everyone knows their seat on the boat, and everyone's rowing same direction, same speed. The second thing that we preach is authentic connection. So clarity and then connection, personal connection. And I just read a study, I think it was Inc.com did a study a couple months ago. Check this out. This is critically, every leader needs to listen to this. 77% of Gen Z feel moderately to severely isolated in their day-to-day life.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah, and we, the old school leader can say, "Well, that's not my fault. That's not my problem. That's our culture. That's our society. They're on Facebook all day. Of course they feel isolated." Well, if you want a workplace that brings the best out of these last generations, Y and Z, you're going to find ways to help them feel connected. And that comes by listening. Leaders that are great listeners are great connectors, asking great questions. What do you think? How would you approach this? What's your experience? What could we do better around here? All those kinds of questions lead to better connection, and connection leads to better productivity and longevity.
If I'm somebody listening to this, what you just said is, I can't tell you how important that is. One, we need the more diverse of an organization you have, the stronger it's going to be. Young folks to folks that are, closer to retirement, everybody in between, whether it's, race related, experience related, pick your ways of diversifying, your team. The more diverse it is, the stronger it will be. However, people, in this diverse and inclusive, equitable society we live in, which is great. I find it ironic that we have this, mix of people in the workforce, but yet, do we really know these people? Do we really understand what these different types of people need to be successful? You're talking about pay and benefits and stuff a minute ago in that one example. Well, some people that maybe are younger, maybe single, don't not married, not have kids, maybe benefits isn't that big of a deal to them. Where somebody that's in their 40s and 50s, that is a big deal to them. Some people feel isolated and they need a lot of engagement. Gen Z and the millennial groups, they need a lot of affirmation. They need a lot of engagement. They do not like just kind of sitting on the sidelines being told what to do. They need to be engaged. They need to be heard and felt and understood. But other people do too, right? So how do you build a culture that captures all of that and engages people? Because yeah, we've had introverts in the workforce since the beginning of humanity, right? I mean, there's introverts, extroverts, there's all kinds of people with different, personality traits, but you have to engage all of them. You can't just hang out with the extroverts and tell jokes all day, right?
Right. I think that oftentimes we as leaders overcomplicate things,
Mhm.
and this isn't really that complicated. the human condition, we all want to be seen, heard, and valued. Every one of us. I don't care skin color, background. That's where I think we overcomplicate things. The most important thing a leader can do is recognize you're working with human beings first. They're not widgets. They're not there to help you build your mansion in Hawaii or fund your next vacation. They have hopes and dreams and desires and pains and fears. And I think one of the greatest things we can do as leaders is build a culture where people feel heard, seen, and valued. Now, I'm not talking about sitting around the fire singing Kumbaya at work. We have stuff to do, but I'm talking about making sure we're not wasting human potential. And I think the greatest waste on planet Earth is human potential,
Mm.
because we don't take the time to connect and understand and listen. And the average engagement for the average American worker is 40%. They're giving about 40% of their best at work. And the highest performing companies, the people are giving 80%. That's double. That's double productivity, double engagement, double innovation, double creativity. And one of the key elements of that is this connection piece of listening, asking questions, asking for input and advice. The companies that do that, they just innovate and grow, and they build longevity and retention because people feel seen, heard, and valued. So there is ROI here. It's not just a kumbaya. There is bottom line dollars ROI to connect with your people and understand how they tick. So radical clarity, authentic connections are step 1 and 2.
When I was in the military, you may have seen the same kind of mission statement, if you will, kind of a slogan in this area of the Air Force that I worked at that time. People first, mission always. 4 words. Very clean, very clear, very simple. And you look at the wall, when you walk in the building and there's the logos and the values and you see that statement, you're thinking people first, mission always. Like, well, kind of get it. Like, what does that really mean? 4 simple words that really means that you put people first in everything, from safety perspective, keeping them safe, informing them, developing them, training them, taking care of them to the best of your ability when they go through ups and downs in their personal life, when they're struggling at work to deal with a coworker or to get something over the goal line and they run out of resources, whatever that is, like you are completely focused on the people, because when you take care of people in the ways you need to take care of them, it automatically took care of the mission. You automatically got the revenue you were looking for. You got the results you were looking for, because when you invest in people, they call it kind of like giver's gain, right? When you're investing in these people and it's genuine and sincere and you're included and you feel like you can't do it without them, they will work extra hours, they will work a weekend, they will do whatever it takes to make sure the job gets done, the clients are satisfied, and the goals are met, because they know you care about them on that level. Have you seen similar things in your comings and goings, HR?
Absolutely, I have. I told you about the 80% over 40% engagement. I just read
Yeah,
just this morning, actually, an HBR report that companies that are purpose driven rather than task oriented have a 30% higher innovation level.
that's interesting.
So they're
Yeah.
innovating, right? So all the things that some of the old school leaders would think, don't. One CEO told me, "Don't give me that touchy feely crap." Well, I'm not talking about touchy feely crap. I'm talking about just being human and exploring and understanding what your people, and you're going to get higher ROI, greater retention, longevity, greater innovation, creativity. People are going to give you greater engagement. All the things you want, you're not getting with your whip or your stick. You're going to get with questions in your ears.
You ever see that movie Days of Thunder? Tom
No,
Cruise
I did.
is a race car driver.
No, I never watched that one.
It's a good one. Highly recommend it. In the movie, Robert Duvall was the pit crew guy of Tom Cruise being the car driver, right? And Tom Cruise was needed to figure out a few things. They were, not as successful in the beginning, right? And so Robert Duvall's character says, "You know what? I want you to go out there and run, I don't know, it's like 50 laps how you want to run it. And then you come back in, we're going to put new tires on, we're going to gas you back up, and then you're going to run 50 times around the track my way, the way I tell you to do it. And let's just see what happens." Well, sure enough, after they ran those, two sets of 50 laps, Robert Duvall's way worked better. They saved tires. They didn't have to pit as much. They didn't have as many issues in the car. They won more races, right?
Okay.
So my point is that leaders out there that are operating in ways where you're not getting the things that you need to get, and you're not getting the results, and people, and there's turnover. Run your business for a while the way you want to run it, then come to HR or somebody like me in HR that are consultants that are experts in this, and run your business the way HR tells you to run it for a few minutes. See which one gets you better results. I'd like to see what happens in that situation.
It's a no-brainer. They're gonna have to change their mindset for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's a big key here as you're going through your five element program. Mindset, the way you think, and how you are framing decisions that you are making. Have you captured everything you need to capture to make the best decisions possible in this space? So HR, keep going through
Okay.
your list. You've got a few more left. I want to make sure we get them all in.
Yeah. The third one may surprise your listener. So the first two, to recap, they practice radical clarity, they create authentic connection, and then thirdly, they set high expectations. And that may surprise people who think no one wants to work any day, no one takes pride in their work, no one cares about their work. Well, that can be said on occasion for sure. I'm seeing the opposite. I'm seeing there are 20 and 30 and 40 years old that deeply care about what they do, and they take pride in their work. But we're not creating an environment that pulls that out of them. So they set high expectations. I say this everywhere I go. Eights won't work for fives, and eights
Nope.
won't work in a five environment. So if you want to hire an eight, you need to have an eight culture. And an eight culture is things are done well, high expectation. There's leading indicators, there are clear success trackers, there's good reporting. Everyone knows there's clear goals, right? Because we're practicing radical clarity. There's clear goals out there. I know how I can give myself bonuses. I know what the future growth looks like. One of the things that the new cultures want is they want a clear ladder of growth. They want to see where this thing's going to lead. They're not just going to come and make your widgets all day long so you can have your vacation home. They want to know how this is going to benefit them. So setting high expectations for high performers is absolutely doable. Here's the problem is people want to have high accountability, but they didn't do the first two. They didn't do clarity and connection, and they think they can have high accountability without those two. They go in order, my friends. Clarity, connection, then you can have high accountability. Those that try to get high accountability first, you're going to fail. People are going to walk out the door. So they set high expectations as third. Fourth would be they have a willingness to debate and disagree. The highest performing organizations, one of the things we teach them is creative conflict. Without a willingness to disagree respectfully and debate respectfully, you're not going to innovate. You're not going to create. You're not going to mine for talent. You're not going to mine for brilliance. And the cultures that have the guts to create that kind of space and psychological safety, they're gonna win. And we have to understand there's a difference between personality conflict and task conflict or idea
Yeah.
conflict. It's the latter that we teach. Personality conflict gets in the way of everything. That's drama, that's toxicity, that's gross.
Yep.
Low performing cultures have personality conflict. High performing cultures have idea conflict. They know how to debate ideas.
Yeah, and they'll challenge each other if somebody's dropping the ball or if somebody's trying to showboat too much. They call each other out.
Yeah, you bet.
You see that in college sports all the time. College football. Somebody will I saw Tom Brady do this a lot when he played in the NFL. Come up and he'll get, they'll come off the field, a play didn't go well, somebody didn't do what they're supposed to do, and they'll go right up to them and get right in their face and let them know all about it, right?
Yeah.
That's good conflict. That's good.
It's rare the leaders that are willing to let their ego aside and set their ego down and put rank. We talk about leave rank at the door. You and I have a military background, so leave your rank at the door. Let's just come in and debate ideas. I don't care if it's from the intern or the CEO. Let's debate ideas. And most leaders don't have the humility to get the brightest people in the room and sometimes be wrong and foster that kind of environment.
Yeah.
Let's get to the fifth thing, and then they reinforce a profound purpose. So radical clarity, authentic connection. They set high expectations of accountability. They have a willingness to debate and disagree with creative conflict, and they consistently remind us why we're doing this, the purpose behind this. And this is the way we teach it. What is going to keep your doors open? How is going to help you be efficient and profitable? But why is going to build a great culture and drive and help you build a legacy.
I think this is a great framework. You've done a great job of researching this and packaging this for people to keep it simple. Like nothing in here is rocket science. It's not
No,
physics. It's not chemistry. This is not some technical, need a PhD to figure it out and implement it kind of stuff. This is, broken down into very simple, manageable steps for people to back off the business, slow down a minute, go through these things and evaluate and assess. Are we really clear? Why do we have repeat work? Why is our quality suffering? It's probably a lack of clarity and people being tuned in to the right things to get those results, right? Because if you're not clear, then people will interpret what they think is clarity and they will go do those things. And it may or may not be, what you really want it to be on the level you want it to be. So I really think you've done a great job with this. I think
thank you.
these are bite-sized chunks for people to digest in a very busy, hectic, chaotic world we live in, that can apply these things in a very methodical manner. This isn't open up your mouth and just chuck it down your throat and hope you enjoy the taste when it goes down, right? This
Right.
is being done with them, not to them, right?
That's
so
right. For
so
sure.
everybody's part of the process. Is that right? How does this get implemented, right? How do you make sure this gets implemented the right way the first time?
Yeah, we're with them arm in arm, side by side, asking a bunch of questions. We don't go in with some cookie cutter deal. We have a framework because we understand social connections and human social needs. And but we go in and ask a bunch of questions, walk arm in arm with these teams and these leaders, and help them develop this kind of framework of how to really implement this, build a culture, work on your systems, work on your clarity, all the processes. We want to make more widgets. We want to make more money. I want everyone to be healthier and wealthier and have more free time. And it comes by understanding human systems first, social dynamics. And we just walk arm in arm with them and teach them how to do all this stuff.
That's excellent, because different people learn in different ways. Some people get it right up front. Some people you need to, reiterate it and explain it and show them multiple times before they get it. And I think that's I think a powerful lesson, with leaders out there is one, you got to get the right people in there, and two, you've got to meet them where they're at and take them together as a team so they all can progress and go through that process, right? What makes a great football team? Well, obviously coaching and playbooks and talent and, all that kind of stuff. But really what makes a great team, a championship quality team is going into the reps. every single day, running the plays over and over again until you get them right. And
Yeah.
and it's a and it's working together to make sure everybody does their job on the team, right? It's being disciplined to the process of everybody doing what they should be doing and holding each other accountable to that, right? And I think you just do a phenomenal job with that HR.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show again. Always a privilege to have. I feel like we could talk until the cows come home and never even scratch the surface. But today was a very powerful episode. I hope people got a lot of really good golden nuggets out of this. If you want a winning culture, if you are thinking long game, long term best interest of your organization, then you need to be thinking more about your people and the culture you want and how you want that to thrive and to what level. Do you want a level 10 out of 10? Where everybody's, a 10, or is mediocre like a 5 going to be good enough for you? What really do you need to make your business run the way you want it to? And HR has done an excellent job of laying out his, 5 elements of success for driving culture and talent and teamwork and performance that you want to drive. With his radical clarity, his connection, the accountability and the expectations, the creative conflict, and the purpose, the why of connecting all of that together, I think is just so powerful. So, thank you so much. How do people contact you if they want to work with you, learn more, and engage you in a different way?
Sure. You're free to reach out to me directly, hr@yourleadersedge.com. Email me. I'd love to chat. Go to our website, yourleadersedge.com, if you just want to check out our organization.
Yeah, he's got multiple books out there, starting a podcast here soon. Once we get more of those details, we'll also add all those things to the show notes so you can easily find him, get his books, connect with the podcast as that evolves. So that's it for today's show. Next week, we've got a really, really cool show lined up for you. We're going to be talking about the best kept secret in business, using other people's money to grow your business and be as successful as you want to be. You don't want to miss that. That's it. Have a great week, everybody.